This video provides a brief introduction to how you should cite sources and why you should care. First, bear with me for an extended metaphor. Once upon a time, there was this type of music called rock and roll. It was a little angry and loud, but in a good way. And during its heyday in the 1980s, one popular band was called Van Halen. But one thing they were famous for was a rider in their contracts for when they would put on concerts. One element of their contract stipulated that they had to have a bowl full of M&Ms in their hotel room when they arrived, and these M&Ms could not have any brown M&Ms. This was part of the reason they gained a reputation as such divas, but the point of this part of the contract was actually not really about the M&Ms. It was a heuristic, a mental shortcut that let them know whether or not the people putting on the concert actually paid attention to every element of their contract. If the concert organizer was complying with this part of the contract, the M&M clause, they could be fairly certain that the organizers paid attention to the more important parts, things about concert safety, electricity, lighting, and so forth. It was a simple way for them to get a very immediate understanding of what environment they were walking into. And I'd like you to think about citations in a similar way. Because while there are many reasons to cite sources and cite them well, including the most important, you cannot plagiarize other people's work. Citations also demonstrate how much work you did on a project and whether or not you read the right people on that particular issues. But they also demonstrate your attention to detail. If you're correctly citing your sources, that tells me as a grader and a reader that you probably paid similar amounts of attention to the other parts of your research. The key things that I want you to remember when you're doing citations are, first off, that there are two parts to any citation. There's an inline reference that can either be a mention of the author and year in a sentence itself, or it can be a footnote. And the other part is a list of references.
Let me show you an example of an inline citation. It's where the author's last name and the year of the publication are listed as part of the sentence, as you can see extensively here. Sometimes this is done through footnotes, but in academic research it is increasingly common to only see the name year citation as an inline cite. As an example of a combination of footnotes and inline citations, here you can see references to authors' names and years cited throughout, but the authors also use footnotes to provide additional clarification on small points.
In your list of references, you can use many different types of citation styles, but what's important is that you be consistent, that you use the exact same format for every single reference.
I'd like to end by talking about two different ways that you can actually find citations. The first is through Google Scholar. That's scholar.google.com. When you find an article through Google Scholar, you can click on the quotation mark right below it, and it will provide you a citation using some of the most common styles. Here I'm recommending you use APA style, but there are many others. It's possible to copy and paste this into your bibliography, but it's important to be very cautious when doing so. Not all citations in Google Scholar or in the ZSR library are complete, and they're not always consistent with each other. For example, in Google Scholar, the authors' names are in lowercase and there's no internet reference. If you look at the same citation in ZSR library, and the way you would find the citation is clicking on Citation, pulling the appropriate style, and then you can copy it to the clipboard. But you can see here that the authors' names are all capitalized, and there is a permanent link reference as well. In your bibliography, I'm going to ask that you be very consistent in how you do this. So if you use lowercase for one set of authors' names and uppercase for another set of authors' names, I will take off points for that. In addition, sometimes either of these will provide you some slightly incorrect information, a misspelling in a journal title or missing page numbers, for example. So it is important to read and check this before you actually turn it in.
If you'd like some additional help or resources, two great sources are the Purdue Online Writing Lab, which is consistently cited by pretty much every university for how to do citations, and ZSR citation guides.